Welcome to this quiet space of listening, where the rush of the outer world slowly dissolves and every sound fades into stillness, leaving only the pulse of your own heart. Here, time begins to slow down, stretching itself into a soft horizon where transformation quietly takes root. Today, I invite you to gaze far beyond the walls of your personal story, beyond the repetitive habits of everyday life, beyond the thoughts that return like echoes. Together, we will approach something older, subtler, the invisible codes that shaped you long before your first breath. We carry within our bodies far more than flesh and personal memory. We carry echoes of symbols, unresolved wounds, silent promises, vibrational signatures inherited from those who walked this earth before us. These imprints shape the way we perceive the world, the way we react to pain, and even the way we silently expect life to unfold. Many of them remain hidden, sleeping in the underground layers of the subconscious. But whatever rises into awareness can be healed. This is not a path of guilt or blame. It is a path of loving recognition. Awakening to the inherited codes is understanding that we are echoes of countless lives, but also a new voice in the flowing river of time. What once held us captive can now become the very doorway to freedom. All it asks is presence, listening, willingness to choose again. Today, we will walk side by side through this invisible landscape, a territory made of emotional, mental, and spiritual inheritances. We will visit patterns that did not begin with us, yet live quietly within us, waiting for the light of awareness. Here, compassion is not optional. It is the bridge we will need to cross. Along this journey, you may feel echoes of old sorrows, emotions that rise without clear origin, reactions that seem too automatic to belong only to this moment. These are whispers of a story much larger than your own, a story that you have the power to rewrite with courage and presence. So take a slow breath. Let go of the need to control, and allow this moment to act as a mirror polished by time, where you can see yourself clearly and finally release what was never truly yours to carry. Shall we begin? How many times have you found yourself acting on pure impulse, reacting with an intensity that feels completely out of proportion? Or finding yourself trapped in situations that repeat like an unbroken cycle? Perhaps in those moments you whispered silently, "This isn't me." And yet what emerges without conscious control is often not random. It is the echo of something inherited, something waiting quietly to be acknowledged. There are subtle codes etched deep into our psyche, like invisible pathways drawn long before we could walk them. Emotional maps left behind by unprocessed experiences of our parents, grandparents, and even those we never met in person. They carried their own traumas, their silences, their ways of surviving emotionally, and those survival patterns continue breathing through us, until the moment we choose to meet them with awareness and healing. Some call this emotional epigenetics, the science of how memories and emotional imprints are transmitted across generations through more than just DNA. Others name it the morphogenetic field, a living web of information connecting all beings in a lineage. And there are those who speak of it simply as spiritual ancestry, the unseen threads of soul memory. Regardless of the language or tradition, the truth remains. We are not beginning at zero. We are the continuation of countless untold stories. But this intricate network of inherited memory is not a prison. On the contrary, it can become a profound well of wisdom if we are willing to listen. Unexplained sadness, nameless fears, sudden sabotaging impulses, all of these can be subtle invitations from the past, asking not for suppression, but for release and transformation. When we begin to understand this, our inner dialogue softens into compassion. We stop blaming ourselves for the repetitive patterns we keep meeting in life, and instead we dare to ask, where does this truly come from? This single question opens doors, dissolves inner rigidity, and allows new narratives to emerge from what once was only unconscious repetition. By honoring the origin of our behaviors, not with judgment but with presence, we stop being puppets of the past and begin shaping ourselves as conscious artists of transformation. This is how inherited codes shift from silently controlling our lives to becoming collaborators in the awakening of our true essence. Not every absence is silent. There are invisible presences quietly inhabiting our gestures, hidden within our fears, echoing in the quiet corners of our dreams. They are the unexpressed pains of those who came before us, emotions suffocated by silence, griefs left unfinished, promises whispered but never fulfilled. These echoes arrive unannounced, asking us in their own quiet way to finally acknowledge them. Perhaps you have felt at times a sadness without a name, a sense of guilt with no clear origin, or the heavy weight of carrying something that clearly isn't yours. These feelings often belong to unresolved emotional inheritances, fragments of ancestral stories left without closure, now calling out for healing through your awareness and compassion. Ancestral healing does not demand that you relive the suffering of the past. It asks only that you recognize it, with humility, with presence, with reverence. It is like lighting a candle in silent honor of those who came before you, whispering to them, "I see you, and I choose to walk in peace." That single inner gesture begins to transform the invisible bond, releasing the threads of pain that were never truly yours to hold. Too often, we unconsciously stay loyal to old sorrows out of love for our family line. We carry their griefs as if by mirroring their suffering, we were paying tribute to their memory. But true love does not demand repetition. True love asks for evolution, for freedom, for healing, for a life made lighter by understanding. You do not need to carry what you did not live. You can face the past with reverence and still walk forward with lightness in your steps. Life renews itself when we allow these inherited legacies to be seen, embraced, and ultimately transmuted. This single act of awareness heals not only you, but ripples back through time to those who came before. The liberation from inherited codes begins with a quiet, inner choice, a willingness to say yes to the life beating within you now, without repeating the sorrows of yesterday. The pain that is finally seen begins to dissolve. The pattern that is heard can be rewritten, and the soul that awakens becomes the healing voice of an entire lineage. Our body is the very first book written by our lineage. Every cell carries unspoken chapters. Every muscle holds the echoes of stories left unfinished. The sudden ache in your chest when you hear certain words, the tight knot in your throat in unexpected moments. These are not random sensations. They are remnants of the past, memories surfacing quietly into the present moment, asking to finally be felt and understood. So often, we look for answers within the mind, but the body has been whispering long before thought ever forms. It remembers the silences of a great-grandmother who never had permission to scream, the trembling fear of a grandfather who survived scarcity and hardship, the unprocessed echoes of family traumas that no one ever dared to name. All of this lives within us, manifesting as emotional patterns, as physical symptoms, as reactions that seem to come from nowhere. Listening to the body is a sacred portal. When we approach it with reverence and curiosity, we create a safe space for hidden memories to rise, gently and without dramatization. This is not about forcing revelation, but about allowing the body's quiet wisdom to speak. Every ache and tension holds a message, a code waiting to be decoded through presence and care. Healing does not come from resisting what we feel, but from welcoming it fully. Instead of numbing or running away from our sensations, we can lean toward them softly, as if holding the hand of a forgotten ancestor in need of comfort. Within the very places that ache, there is also a seed of liberation, patiently waiting for our compassionate attention. You can begin with the smallest gestures, a deeper, slower breath that opens the chest, a gentle hand resting over the heart, a mindful stretch inviting your body to share its truth. Every moment of conscious listening loosens invisible knots, offering release for what was never meant to remain trapped. To heal the body is also to heal the past. It is the sacred temple where inherited codes reveal themselves, and the place where they can finally be rewritten. As the body finds freedom, life itself begins to flow more naturally. And when life flows, your entire ancestral line exhales, smiling in quiet relief and peace. There are moments when, even while deeply longing for change, something within us remains anchored to the old, loyal to what no longer serves us. This quiet loyalty arises from invisible bonds, unconscious ties that bind us to repeating family stories, believing that by carrying them we maintain connection or belonging. It is a kind of blind love, a love willing to suffer to stay close. How often have we heard words like, "In our family, no one is ever truly lucky," or "In this family, love always comes with suffering"? These collective beliefs, when left unexamined, solidify into silent pacts that shape our lives in hidden ways. Even without consciously choosing them, we find ourselves living under the same patterns, as if bound by an unspoken contract written long ago. The inner child longs for belonging more than happiness, to feel safe within the family field. This child within us often assumes pain that was never theirs to hold, carries guilt that does not belong to them, and molds itself to repeat cycles without even realizing it. But even this blind love, which once chained us to suffering, can be transformed into something far more liberating. When we recognize these hidden loyalties, we can honor our ancestors in a new way, not by repeating their hardships, but by living fully, accomplishing what they could not, and relieving the ancestral field through conscious choices. True liberation does not sever us from the past. It redeems it, turning old wounds into doorways toward healing. You do not need to suffer to prove love. You do not need to repeat pain to feel you belong. Your place within the lineage has always been secure. What your ancestors silently ask of you now is simple: awareness, presence, and permission to flourish. The highest loyalty is no longer to suffering, but to the living pulse of life moving through you. But transforming these unconscious pacts is like opening the windows of an ancestral home that has been closed and dark for generations. Light pours in, fresh air circulates, and the old inhabitants can finally rest in peace. By doing this, you become a turning point in the lineage, a conscious link that heals both backward and forward through time. There is something within you that existed long before the pain, long before the names you were given, long before the roles you were asked to play. This something is the soul, the silent core of your being, a traveler across generations, carrying not only the wounds of the past, but also the seeds of potential and light for what is yet to come. Of the soul does not forget, yet it does not cling either. It witnesses the cycles, learns from the weight of suffering, and tirelessly seeks the expansion of consciousness. Even when we are born into webs of difficult patterns, it is the soul that quietly urges us to transform them, turning pain into possibility, turning heaviness into gateways for awakening. You feel this calling whenever something deep inside you refuses to continue repeating the same mistakes. Whenever you begin to sense that there is a greater meaning hidden within your suffering. Whenever you realize that even your deepest pain can be transformed into a doorway toward freedom. It is the soul whispering softly, "You are not here to carry. You are here to liberate." The soul recognizes the pains of the lineage, but it is never bound by them. It knows the past is not a prison, it is a bridge, and the crossing can only happen when we choose to look back with courage and presence. This courage is not about shouting or conquering. It is about quietly standing still in truth. Your very existence is proof of continuity. The simple fact that you are alive means that life has prevailed once again, despite the losses, the wars, the unhealed wounds of those before you. You are the continuation of light shining through the inherited shadows, a living reminder that love endures beyond generations. But to honor the soul is to trust the movement of life itself. It is knowing that even the densest ancestral codes can be rewritten through awakened awareness. When you choose to live with presence and authenticity, your soul illuminates the path ahead, not just for you, but for every soul that will one day walk after you. There comes a moment when we finally realize we are not only children of the past, we are also the creators of what is yet to come. Consciousness is the key that opens the door to free will, the quiet invitation to stop being a mere reflection and instead become the direction itself, the one who chooses rather than simply repeats. Breaking old patterns is not an act of rejection, but of loving responsibility. It is as if we could turn inward to our ancestors and say, "Thank you for everything that brought me this far. But now, with love, I choose differently." This choice does not sever us from them. It becomes the very bridge that heals what was wounded. But choosing new paths asks for courage, but also for gentleness. It is not always the grand gestures that transform. It is the subtle daily decisions, the quiet moments when we respond differently, when we pause before repeating the familiar, when we allow a new perspective to guide an old situation. Unconscious repetition creates more of the same, perpetuating cycles without question. But even the softest moment of awareness interrupts the pattern with silent strength. It observes before it reacts, breathes before it repeats, and plants new seeds where automation once ruled. You have the power to become the link that shifts the story. You can be the turning point that brings healing to generations, not through heroic struggle, but through presence, deep listening, and integrity in your choices. Each time you act with clarity, you rewrite a narrative once thought unchangeable, offering freedom to yourself and to those who came before. The past is real, yes, but the present moment is sovereign. Within it lies the true power of decision, the quiet opportunity to liberate and be liberated. There is no urgency here, only direction. Life honors its cycles, and with every conscious step you take, an ancient code is rewritten, turning inheritance into possibility. Freeing yourself from inherited codes is not a single act of willpower, but a continuous process of presence, gentleness, and inner care. The practices we nurture quietly within our daily routines become the true instruments of deep healing. They do not demand heroic effort or perfection, but rather constancy, patience, and sincerity in each small step. The first practice is simple yet profound: observation without judgment. When automatic reactions arise, instead of suppressing them or justifying them as part of your personality, simply pause and ask, is this truly mine or something inherited? This question is not about finding blame, but about opening a doorway to clarity, a gentle space where choice becomes possible. Another vital practice is ancestral forgiveness. Not the superficial kind of forgiveness that denies pain, but the deeper recognition of the limitations of those who came before. They acted according to the level of awareness they had at the time. In honoring that truth, you release yourself from carrying their weight. Forgiveness here is not forgetting. It is remembering with peace, allowing life to continue flowing through you unburdened. Embodied practices also play a powerful role in liberation. Mindful breathing, meditative movement, silent walks in nature, intuitive journaling. All these practices invite the body to trust again, because healing does not happen in the mind alone. The body must feel safe enough to let go, to soften the knots of memory and allow energy to move freely. Symbolic rituals can also open doors. Lighting a candle in quiet reverence, writing letters you will never send, speaking gratitude inwardly to your ancestors. These small yet sacred gestures reach into the invisible, signaling to the unconscious that you are ready to create new codes, lighter, freer, infused with presence. Well, these practices do not change the past itself, but they transform the way the past lives inside of you. They reconnect you with your innate autonomy and nourish the fertile soil of your soul with freedom. True liberation is never about rupture. It is about deep reconciliation, a quiet reunion with life itself. When you heal a pattern within yourself, that transformation ripples far beyond your personal story. It resonates backward through your ancestral lineage, bringing quiet relief to unspoken pains of the past. And it also reaches forward into the future, preparing fertile ground for the generations yet to come. Healing is never only individual. Every conscious choice, every subtle act of liberation creates invisible waves that touch the energetic field of your family, whether or not they are aware of it. We are threads woven into the same tapestry, and when one thread is freed, others begin to loosen and flow as well. If you are a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, or an uncle, your emotional decisions become seeds planted in the soil of those who follow you. Even without words, children absorb what we feel. They mirror our reactions and unconsciously inherit our posture toward life itself. Healing yourself is offering them a new mirror, a reflection of love that is clearer, steadier, and possible. At the same time, turning toward the past with compassion allows those who came before you to find rest. You might imagine your grandmother smiling softly, finally seen and honored in your quiet listening. You might sense a great-grandfather who never allowed himself to cry, finally feeling permitted to release and rest in peace. Time is not a straight line. In the language of the soul, everything is happening now. This is why healing an ancient trauma or releasing a long-held family burden is not merely symbolic. It is a vibrational reconfiguration of the entire field of existence. Past and future shift together when we heal in the present. You become a point of light within your family's web, a silent beacon shining across the ocean of ancestry. And the beauty of this work is that it asks for no perfection, only presence, and the willingness to choose differently, to become the bridge, and to let love flow freely across that bridge once again. Throughout this journey, you may have recognized stories hidden deep within you, felt emotions that seemed older than your own lifetime, or heard quiet whispers that did not come from your thinking mind. Perhaps you shed a tear, or simply found yourself in silence. All of this is a sign that something real was touched within you, and whatever is touched with truth begins to transform. You are not alone in this process. Every soul that awakens to its inherited codes clears a path for others to awaken as well. This work creates a quiet current of healing, a living thread woven by those who choose to love consciously, not by repeating the past, but by renewing the field with presence and compassion. From this moment forward, you can walk with greater lightness, not because every wound has been resolved, but because your very presence now sustains a new field of energy. A field where the past is honored instead of denied, where the present is inhabited with soul, and where the future is welcomed with peace instead of fear. You may return here whenever you feel the weight returning. This space, this reflection, exists to remind you that life itself is always pulsing toward freedom, and that liberation is never an act of rejection, but an act of love. Love for yourself, for those who came before, and for those who will one day walk after you. So celebrate your quiet courage. You have stepped beyond repetition, daring to look where many would prefer to keep their eyes closed. That single gesture, humble yet profound, marks the beginning of a new vibrational lineage, a lineage woven with consciousness, presence, and light. Move forward with gentleness, with your eyes rooted in the present moment, and your heart grounded in truth. You are the bridge that transforms everything. And in your journey, ancient love is renewed, cycles close with gratitude, and life, finally, breathes freely through you. And so, see you in the next video, with more information on everything that involves growing, evolving, transforming, and manifesting. See you soon.